Good morning, everyone. I will now call the hearing to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. This morning I will be chairing the hearing. My name is Robert Hutchings. On my direct left is Mr. Phillick. On my far left is Mr. Stenning. Representing the Assessment and Taxation Department, City of Winnipeg, is Mr. Valderrama. And our secretary today will be Ms. Harrison. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments are not considered evidence of market value by this Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing today and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed further to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with this Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant. Following their swearing in, we will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by cross-examination by the appellant and then the panel members, and then the appellant's testimony, followed by cross-examination by the assessor first and then the panel members again. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. This session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions based on the evidence presented here today. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And please, before we begin, can everybody make sure that their cell phones are on silent, please? Okay, first property on the docket is, we are talking about 974 Kilkenny Drive. Mr. and Mrs. Crawford, I believe. If you'd like to come forward, please.
Yeah. Do you want to do this? You don't need to do this. Okay.
Did you want to swear in?
Yes.
And could you please state your name?
Ryan Boardroom.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
I
God?
do. Thank you.
Would you like to swear in on the Bible or a film?
Yeah, I got that.
Could you
but
please
he
state your
said Kenny
name?
Drive.
Neil Crawford.
Is
And
that
do you
this
swear to tell the
property?
truth, the whole
Doesn't say
truth,
it
and
on the
nothing but the
document,
truth,
so
so
I'm
help you
assuming this is number one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Number one.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
are you
on the
on
document.
this?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the brief, Ron.
Could
The
you
address
please
is
state
on
your
the
name?
brief.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you
yeah.
swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Here, on this sheet.
Why don't you sit down here?
Okay, fair enough. I saw.
And is that evidence?
Sorry?
Is that evidence?
I submitted this letter earlier, but when I reread the letter I'm not sure if it would be given to the assessors or not. So can I give you copies of it?
I believe it's up to the panel members because the evidence today was.
It's just, it summarizes.
Okay, are there 6 copies or 5?
I have 5 copies.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll accept it, sure.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you reviewed that? Yeah. You reviewed that letter? Yeah. Right,
No,
so you,
that's included. I'm just gonna go through them as they present.
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And I just wanted to reiterate the point that it was just submitted today and not 2 weeks ago.
Okay, it's just a summary of what he's gonna present, I believe, so.
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe, yeah, it looks like that's what's gonna happen.
Okay, so Mr. Valderrama, we are dealing with a 2020 realty appeal, and we've got a file number 19-3974. So we have the owner's named as the City of Winnipeg and Mr. and Mrs. Crawford, and it's detailing the city lease on the property, I guess. So when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property has, again, a file number of 19-3974, a roll number of 030405000400. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, a reference date of April 1st, 2018, and an assessed value of $81,000. The property type is a vacant park, and its zoning is RR5, which is Rural Residential 5. The land area is 21,398 square feet. On page 2 is the cost valuation summary, which indicates that it is only a land value. On page 3, the top part is the picture or aerial photo of the subject property. It is at the back of a residential property adjacent to or backing onto the Red River. And at the bottom of page 3 is the map of the subject property, which is located on Kilkenny Drive. On page 4 is the zoning for the subject property, which indicates Rural Residential 5. And on page 5 are land sale comparables. They are all ranging from $4.56 to $5.90 per square foot. At the bottom of page 5 are the map for the subject, or for the map of the comparable sales. Page 6 is just the detail of the land valuation and classification and liability allocations. And on page 7 is just some excerpts from the Municipal Assessment Act. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Crawford, are you going to be speaking, or is your wife going to be speaking?
I'll be speaking.
Okay, do you have, the assessor presented evidence of the assessment
Yes.
and market evidence. Do you have any questions on the evidence that he's presented on?
Well, you've classified it as R5. I don't know what that means. We were told it was parkland. They didn't have a classification for parkland, so it would be classified as farmland. There is no access to this property. It's a piece of
Okay,
future park. Also, I'm not going to dispute the square footage, but it's probably wrong because about 30 feet of the riverbank has slid into the river in the last 20 years. That's one of the problems with it.
Mr. Chair, if I may direct it to page 1, the classification indicates it is a farm property on page 1 of my brief. And that on RR5, it indicates a limited agricultural use, and it's for large lot rural residential development, whether if it's in the future or currently. And zoning is typically assigned prior to us assessing the property. So we look at the zoning, or we look at the property, but the zoning is already there, and it was already assigned to the property before, even while doing the assessment for the property, Mr. Chair.
does that answer your questions?
Partly.
Okay,
When we
anything else of the assessor?
Well, I'm having problems with the value, obviously, but maybe that comes later.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No, I just, I think he answered the questions.
Thank you. Mr. Stenning?
Yep. Yeah, and I'm just looking your comparables. Are these river properties?
One has an influence. It indicated Sign River adjacent and park and heavy traffic, which is comparable to, sir.
Which trying to find out how they are in fact comparable. The vacant land, I get that.
And if we're gonna look at the map, at the bottom of it,
Well, yeah, it's
yes,
just
it's
a dot,
kind of-
but it doesn't
yeah.
it really doesn't tell me much.
if it's connected, yeah. Only comparable to, I believe, has a land influence of a river. That's the only one.
This gentleman did mention, and I was gonna ask that question, that there is no access to this property.
The subject property, no, it's through the Red River or through the residential property that's in front of it. No, it's landlocked, basically.
Is this property that we're dealing with, is it residential? Can you build residentially on there?
Wasn't able to check on the some of the limitations or restrictions on what to build on it or not, what not to build on it. But I believe it is, there are some restrictions on this property. I just wasn't able to check on what are they. I don't think you can build another residential property on this, because it's a city lease for now.
So, maybe I got up a bit late, but so I'll ask a few questions. So this property it's not farmland then?
No, it's not.
You're assessing it as residential property?
Yes, sir. We are. But it's indicated as the classification as farm property.
Farm property?
It's not being actively farmed. That's what I was about to clarify that.
So I'll just go back to your comparables. Are they accessible properties?
I believe they have access, all of them.
They do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stenning. Okay, Mr. Valderrama,
Yes, sir.
looking on page 3, do the appellants own the property that's addressed on Kilkenny?
Oh, the one in front of it?
Yes.
I wasn't able to check. I think so.
Okay.
Yes, we own that.
So you do own that property?
Yes.
So what we've got here is the city of Winnipeg owns the rearage between you and the river,
That's right.
and you lease it from the city,
Yes.
and you have access to it through your
Through your
yard.
property.
Yes, okay. Okay, but you're responsible for the taxes?
The lease we have says we can maintain, I've got the lease here.
Okay, well-
But it's basically, we can't do anything with it
Right.
other than maintain it.
Okay, and
We
have
cannot
access to
build
it?
on it, we cannot. And if I can add to, we actually inquired of the city if we could build on the back, because my in-laws moved here and we were going to build a granny house or something, and we were told by the city, absolutely no property, no building can be added on that lot.
Okay.
And that was before we sold it to the city.
Oh, okay.
So, and I don't imagine that ruling has changed. Well, I don't know if it was a ruling, sorry. It was a question I asked and I was told no.
Okay, okay, so, Mr. Valderrama, on page 5, you're assessing the subject property at, my calculation is $3.79 a square foot?
On page 6, it's
Page
379.
five.
Yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Yes, sir. It's 379 on page 6 per
Yeah.
square foot.
Okay, and the market evidence is $5.90, $5.20, and $4.56, but I think you believe that those aren't landlocked, would that be fair? All three
Yes,
comparables?
without really
Yeah.
actually looking at them or
Okay.
inspecting them, yes,
Okay.
they are not.
Now, do you have any details on the lease at all, or will we get that from the homeowner?
No, I don't have a.
Okay, we'll leave that for the appellant, okay. And that's my only questions, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Crawford, when you are ready, please. So you've got the letter you submitted to us? Okay,
Yes.
great. When you're ready, please.
Okay. This is a long story. We bought the property in 1983. We were told originally a summer cottage on the river that had been extended. Apparently at one time people who lived in Winnipeg had summer cottages that further down the river. We bought it with the idea that my idea was I was going to build a basement behind it, move the cottage onto it and extend it. But when we started talking to the city, they said they would not permit any major construction there at all because it was zoned as a future park. So we also got feedback from the province that we were in the flood zone, so we couldn't do anything. And I got the runaround between the two, as to one blaming the other as to why we couldn't build. And eventually, after about 5 years, we gave up and we decided to build a house up at the front of the lot. Part of the process was I asked this question because we knew my mother and father-in-law were needing to move, and we asked if we could use the house at the back as a granny house, and we were told no, and I said if we build something else, no. After a lot of toing and froing with the city, we eventually sold that piece at the back to the city, and at the time they told us that it had no commercial value, it was designated parkland, and that's what's shown on the lease we have. It was my recollection, I don't have this in writing, my recollection was they put a nominal assessment of $10,000 on it. And for the first about 15 years, we paid a rent of $1 to the city, to the planning and development department, and the equivalent amount of the taxes that were charged. And they were about 150, 100, but again, this is from the last one, the first one I've got, and I think I've noted it
Yeah,
there.
Mr. Crawford, maybe we'll deal with what's going on right now. We've got a
Okay.
history there that gives detail
Okay.
for us, and
Yeah.
I think we've all reviewed it, but maybe let's discuss what's happening right now with the lease and,
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we have an ongoing lease which we can terminate on 3 months' notice, and the city can terminate on 3 months' notice. The lease says that we can do nothing with that property but maintain it.
What do you mean by maintaining? Just
Well,
cut
I
the
cut
grass?
the grass, I trim the trees. If a tree needs trim, that's basically what we do. We really no longer have access to the river because the whole bank subsided about 10 or 15 years ago. At one time, when we lived in the cottage there, we had stairs going down, but they are gone.
Is the cottage gone?
Oh yes, it's gone. So it's just an empty lot now between our house and the river. So as I say, it's completely landlocked, and really, I think it's being assessed as something that could be developed, and that's just not the situation.
okay. All right, we'll get to the valuation and that, your opinion, but Mr. Beldrama, any questions of the appellant?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Stenning?
This park business then, to your knowledge, the adjoining properties, is any park in there now, or is that just?
On the north of us, our neighbours, the Creightons, they own the property to the
Yeah.
river.
They do, okay.
And again, you'd have to question him, but I've talked to him about it. He says, oh, there's no way they're selling. That's their
So to
property.
your knowledge, there's no future plans to
No.
make a public park there?
Well, I have the lease which shows our lot, behind our lot and behind about the next 5 lots as designated future park. But there's no access from the other end as well. There was a vacant lot there for many years, but it was built on about 10 or 12 years ago. So that basically locked the block in.
So you're operating with a lease now? When
Yes.
does the lease end?
As far as I know, it's open-ended.
Oh,
Just said open-ended, they get 3 months, they can go either way.
either way, okay, thank you.
It's- they
That's
say-
fair enough, I've got the answer.
Cancellation 3 months by either party.
So I guess we're gonna get to that, so is this letter that we have, is that suggesting that it should be $10,700?
No, but I think if that was a reasonable assessment back in 1991 or 92, our house has escalated to a certain amount, the taxes. I think it would be reasonable if it had gone up in a similar amount. At the moment, the evaluation has gone up something like 8 times, and the taxes have gone up 4 or 5 times. Whereas on our house,
Yeah.
I think in the same period, I don't know what we've gone up, maybe 50% or something, you know, maybe even 100%.
So-
I haven't looked at that.
You're not suggesting a figure here that you
No,
think-
I'm not suggesting a figure, but I'm suggesting that it should not be, my suspicion, although on the assessment it says farmland, my suspicion was that it was being assessed as residential. And I think it should not be assessed as residential because there's no,
You're not coming with a figure that you think would
no,
be fair?
if you want me to throw out a figure, I would say something like $15,000 would probably be reasonable if 10,000 was reasonable in back then. But I have really no basis for that, I have to admit.
It'd be good if you did come with something.
Sorry.
That would help, you know.
You can't do anything
I hate to
with
tell
it.
you this, but for about the last 3 or 4 years, I've been annoyed when I got the assessment, but I never did anything about it. And this year I thought, you know, I should really do something. But
Okay. Okay, that's,
it's not,
no.
I hate to say, it's not a huge problem. I think it's wrong and it's annoying me.
Okay. No, that's all I have, I appreciate it. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Mr.
much.
Stanley. Robert, any questions of the appellant?
I do. I'd like to get into the details of the lease.
Yep, I have a copy of it here.
No, we'll see, but if you can answer some questions.
Yes,
Okay. The amount that you pay on that lease is tied into the value of the property for the assessment?
as far, the only payment we make now are the taxes. We do not pay, we used to pay $1
Okay, all
on a
right.
separate bill, but I haven't received that for,
So I'm gonna ask you this question. What was the assessment on this piece of property?
sorry,
What was the assessment on this property 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Probably,
You say you didn't question it, so as a result,
no, it jumped up about, I don't know if I've got that with me.
We can get it.
Did you say we would be able to get it?
Oh, yeah.
All right, okay,
In
fine.
camera.
Fair enough.
No, 2018, it was $527.
But what was the assessed value?
The assessed value then was, how do I read these things? 80,000.
80,000.
so it's only gone up 1,000.
In a year. Now, you said 2 years ago.
No, that's all we need. That's
Yeah.
fine, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a huge jump that somewhere about
Yeah.
2013, 14,
Yeah,
15,
okay.
somewhere in there.
Okay. Anything
Okay.
else, Robert?
No, I think that's all I needed
Okay.
to know.
Okay, sir. You made a statement that you sold the property to the city. What did you
Yes.
sell it for? How
We
much?
sold it to the city for $50,000.
What year was that?
That was 1990 or 1991.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the figure again?
50,000.
50,000.
50,000.
But that was because there was a house on it and
But that house was demolished. There wasn't much value to the house. And it was old.
it was a good enough house. It was demolished basically because we couldn't have two houses on the
Yeah.
one property and there was no access.
Who paid for the demolition?
The city paid for
So the only access to that house at the back was through your house?
it. Through,
Address on
through
Kilkenny?
Past and you really couldn't get a driveway past. It's a 55-foot lot, and there's only basically the minimum clearance on either side.
But there was access to the back?
Before we built the new house, yes.
Okay, so then you made a comment, I'm gonna go to the map that the assessor presented on page, I think it's best illustrated, page 3 of the
Yep.
assessor's brief.
Mhm.
So you made a comment that that your neighbors to the south and the north,
No, only to the north.
that the city has plans to build a park on those back lots?
Not on the lease I have does not show the park including my neighbour's property. It only goes as far as my property.
Okay, but you said 5 lots.
Going south,
South, okay.
it must be, I'm guessing 5.
Yeah.
There's another house.
So they're holding that, they're freezing that land for future park use, it sounds like. Now, on the picture here, what is this large lot here with the driveway? What is on the north side of you? 2 lots, 3 lots over?
Well, what we have the house, we have a neighbour next to us.
Okay.
Next to that is a right of way because there is a drain sewer runoff into the river, goes down there.
So there is access from Kilkenny, but there's drainage, there's a major sewer
Yeah.
overflow problem, or maybe storm sewer.
It's a storm sewer.
Okay,
Yeah. Then
so that is
the one
vacant, okay.
beyond that
Yeah.
is a house which the ex-chancellor of a university built about 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's a rather large
Yeah,
building.
okay. So what is on the lot to the north of you?
Yes.
Is that's also leased by this, is that owned by
No.
the city?
No, that's owned by Dr. Creighton and his wife.
But there is a break here, isn't there, or
Yeah.
maybe I'm not seeing it, no, maybe that's the house
No.
line. Okay, all right. So, now, how much do you pay, so you're responsible for the taxes only, that's the agreement you've got in the lease?
That's all I paid, yes.
Okay, and how much did you pay last year?
5 something.
$600 approximately?
$600.
Okay. And it's farm use, but it's not school exempt, is that right, Mr. Valderrama? It's not exempt?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No, we
so-
pay school tax.
So you pay school tax, okay, and it's residential value, okay.
I have one further question.
And, yeah, okay. Boy, I think that's all my questions. Robert, what do you have, another one?
Yes, I do. So these other 5 lots,
Or it's maybe as much as 10. It goes down the river quite a bit.
right, they're owned by the individuals, they hadn't sold them to the
No,
people,
they
to
are,
the
they are
cities.
they are owned by the city,
Those other 5 properties?
at least, going south from ours.
So and the individuals there are also having a lease the same as you?
No, none of them have a lease. I've talked to them.
But the city owns the properties?
They just use it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I thought.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 actually.
Okay, so
Can I show you
thought that
this?
the city would have to expropriate that lot, those
Well, I
lots,
think-
in order to put the
I
park.
think what happened was that there were 4 or 5 lots where we are, and very narrow lots. I don't know what was south of us before we moved there in '83, but I think a builder bought that block of land and developed these properties. So at that time, he probably came to an agreement with the city that they would have the piece at the back.
Thank you.
And that is before our time there. We were the last house, well no, there was one infill, one lot, a vacant lot further along that was built in, say, 10 years ago or so.
Okay. I have one more question. You made a reference to building a granny suite. when we look on the map on page 3 again, how far is it between the back of your house and the legal lot line for the city?
I think it's about a 60 feet or
60 feet.
50, 60,
So
70
you
feet.
could extend your house, is that correct?
Oh, probably, yes.
Okay.
I-
But you were referring to building a separate,
Yes, well,
dwelling
to be
on that.
honest, we were talking about keeping the old cottage, or the old house.
they wouldn't allow it, yeah.
But they would not allow that, and at the time, I remember asking the question, well, what if we built something sort of between the river and the house? And they said, no, that is parkland, designated parkland, there can be no development on it at all. Now,
So
I have
you-
to tell you, I asked them to give me that in writing, that it would never be development on it, and they wouldn't do that.
So you can walk away from this lease with 90 days' notice?
Yes,
Okay,
don't ask the question, because
okay. So you're paying $600 a year to have a huge lot behind you,
that's
basically?
right, which
Yeah.
the rest of these people have, and they don't pay
Right.
anything.
But with all due respect, you could say, I don't wanna lease it anymore, and you could still have access.
I could have, yes, yeah. But-
Just like your neighbors do.
But we have a sentimental attachment to it, because it was our proper, it was our,
Yeah, okay.
As I said-
I had to ask the question.
I know. As I said at the beginning, it's not that it's a
Yeah,
crippling financial burden, but I think it's wrong.
the principle of
It's
it.
a principle, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry to take your time.
No,
with
no, no,
principle.
not at all. That's your right to do that. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, any requirement for summary?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
is the panel okay? Okay,
Yes, I am.
and sir, I think we've got a picture of what's going on here,
Yes,
and leave it with us, okay, and you'll hear from us as soon as possible. Thanks for
I
appearing.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
nice meeting you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
So we are free to go?
Yes, you are,
Yeah.
unless you want to stay and
No,
watch.
I don't.
Have a lesson in civics here. Thanks again, bye-bye.
I was saying that the good side of this is we've lived in Winnipeg, well, basically since 1970. This is the first time I've been in City Hall. Or
Oh, there you
in
go.
the property, so.
Okay,
You might as well take a tour.
yeah.
What part of Scotland are you from?
Glasgow.
Huh?
Glasgow. If you guess, you're right half the time.
My mother was born in Glasgow.
Oh.
Oh, was she?
It doesn't affect my decision, it's...
No, I would hope not. I would hope not. But we do have to stick together, you know.
Do you know which part of Glasgow? Do you know which part of Glasgow?
No,
No.
That's okay.
no, good question.
Glasgow's
no.
Glasgow.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So how did you detect that?
Huh?
How did you detect that?
Oh, I don't know that.
You
Thanks.
do it quite
I
well.
tell people that who comment on my accent that if I hear a better one, I'll take it. Until then, I'll keep what we've got. So,
Okay.
Bye-bye.
bye then.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Come on forward, Marcel. Thanks again, bye-bye.
On the back. Please state your name. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
We are item number 2. Morning, Marcelo, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. We are looking at file number 19-3895, which is item number 2 on the docket. And we're dealing with a 2020 realty assessment. Sir, do you have any evidence to present? I guess we got this already.
Which one is that?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I just have to find it for myself. Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Okay, we're dealing with the 2020 realty assessment, and we've got vacant parkland, I guess. Mr. Valderrama, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number of 19-3895, a roll number of 120317077500. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The property is assessed at $1,945. It is a vacant park, as indicated, and it has a zoning of multifamily, residential multifamily. Land area for the subject property is 13,147 square feet. On page 3, the top portion is the aerial photo of the subject property, and then at the bottom part is the map of the subject property where it is located. On page 4 is the zoning, which indicated RMFL or residential multifamily. On page 5 are land sale comparables. At the top it's the actual land sales. There are 3. They're all ranging from $32.31 up to $76.83. Sale price per square foot. And at the bottom part of page 5 is the map for the comparable land sales. On page 6 is the land valuation and classification and liability allocation of the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Martello, any questions of the assessor's evidence?
Yes. You state that your comparables range between $32 and $71 per square foot, roughly.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Why is your land then not between $32 and $71?
I'm sorry, which?
Why is your assessment not between $32 and $71?
I believe there are some, with this land, I'm doing my research, this was coded, or there are some caveats in this property where it's undevelopable. If I may continue, Mr. Chair, the assessed value was more of a nominal amount that was assigned. It was reviewed by our department, and it was assigned a $1,945 or $1,945 in order to account for the taxes collected that may offset admin costs, just maintenance for this property, for the record keeping and all these things, to collect enough taxes for record keeping for this property, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
So what you're saying is that we're dealing with more a function of taxation than an actual market value?
Yes, as indicated in the valuation, it's $1,945, which is about, if I would direct you on page 6, it's 15 cents per square foot. If we are dealing with market value, this would have been, who knows, in the north, any number in the north of 15 cents. And I think that's the argument again. I mean, if he's arguing against market value and taxation, then so be it. But the 1,945, I still believe it is a nominal value assigned in the property, which is 15 cents a square foot.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Stenning?
No, I really don't think I have at this point, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I have no questions either, Mr. Valderrama. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
So as you can see by my brief, there is no information there pertaining to sales. This is really not a matter of valuation. We think it's more a matter of principle. This property was reduced in value in the previous assessment cycles to $50. The reasoning for it is that you can't build on it. As the assessor mentioned, there are caveats on it that would not allow any type of development in the future on this site.
I'm going to ask you to speak up if you don't mind.
There are caveats on this property that would not allow any future development on this site. For that reason, we've stated before, and again, this is again the third or fourth time that we've come up with the same argument, that you can't have a value, even a nominal value, on something that you can't, that has no development potential. The value is based on its potential use. Commercial properties will have higher value because they have a commercial potential. Residential will have a higher value because it has that residential potential. Now, if you can't put anything on this land, then what value does it have? We say it probably has none. And for that reason, we've stated before that it should be reduced to $50. That's my argument. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Valderrama, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Stenning?
How long have you owned that property?
I don't own it, but my client owns it, and they've owned it, I can't give you a specific time frame. I would say that it's been more than 15 years.
Yeah, this has been appealed before, hasn't it?
It has, it's an annual occurrence.
Yeah, no, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question, have you ever tried to sell it, or I beg your pardon, your client?
I don't think the client has tried to sell it. I mean, I suppose they could sell it to the city. Again, if you can't put anything on it, to a potential investor, I don't know what value it would have. It might have some value to the city, but I don't think the city has offered to take it.
No, I mean, the situation would be, was there any attempt to put it on the market for sale?
No, it has never come up for sale. And it has never been put on the market.
No, okay, that's fine. I know the piece of property. I really don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stenning. Robert, any questions?
Well, I was going to ask the question about potential sale and so forth. If you stopped paying the $50, would the city then appropriate it?
I don't know what the situation would be. I don't think anybody would lose any sleep over it.
Okay. I do have one question, just to follow through. You stated that you wanted to assess this so that the taxes that, based on the assessment, would give the amount of money that it's costing you to administer this person's property. Is that correct?
Well, basically, every property has cost to
Right.
administer, and yes, and that's just our argument in terms of why we value it.
What cost is that you had in your mind by arriving at this figure of assessment?
A lot of numbers have been thrown. I think it's about at least $50 admin costs or something. It could be north of it, but at least.
But it is already $50.
No, not in assessed value. I mean, in terms of.
No, but I'm talking about the cost. So if you are paying $50 already, isn't that covering your cost of administration?
I
No,
don't
they-
seem to get
It seems that you are, what has happened in the past is they are paying $50 on this property.
Sir, if I may, the $50 that was indicated in the past was an assessed value of $50.
I
Which is
believe he's
different.
correct. I
Which
believe
is different from-
what they've done in the past is knock it down to $50 to
I thought
basically
the
take it off of the
$50
tax
is what you
roll.
wanted to pay.
No, I think they've taken it out of the tax roll. The $50 effectively takes it off the tax
Oh,
roll.
I see. Okay, now I'm getting a little clearance there. Okay, all right.
That's the assessment.
Yeah. Yes.
Believe it or not, $50. Okay, anything else, Robert?
Nope.
Okay, so, Marcelo, we've got that big apartment block built on the southeast corner of River and, Donald and Stradbrook, that's
Yeah.
right? That's what we're talking about here, right? If we look at the map on page 3, that's the entrance to the apartment block if you were heading south on Donald to get through the back door to get into the apartment. That's what this park is kind of taking up that land, right?
Well, there is a right of way,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's it called?
Yeah,
Galapagos Way.
So we've got this.
That's how you access the apartment from
Yeah,
that
if you were
side.
heading south, or I guess
Yeah.
north or south, right?
Yeah, north.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So this is the land, that lot in kind of that triangle.
Yeah,
There is some land that isn't assessed for, that probably possibly belongs to the city, I guess.
Yeah.
Along the right of way. So, does the apartment block benefit from the land? Let's say it's a dog park?
I
We've
can't
got
say that
the
I've
parking there.
I've driven by it hundreds of times. I can't say that I mean, if somebody upkeeps it,
Yeah,
I imagine it's the current owner.
yeah, of the apartment block.
So there's that expense to them, but in terms of the apartment building as well, and whether they use it, I'm not sure that the two are separate owners. Let's get this right.
They are separate.
They are
owners.
separate owners.
It doesn't belong to the apartment
No,
block?
it does
Oh,
not belong to the apartment.
Ah, okay, I see. Okay.
Is there a reason for a sign there advertising Riverview Towers that makes it look like maybe that property is up for sale?
Yeah, it's not, it's not theirs. The river, the tower sign there,
Well, this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're charging for that sign, and it has nothing to do with the current owner of the property.
It's an advertisement for the apartment
For the
block.
apartment, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. So what are you asking you, how much per square foot are you asking us to reduce this to?
I'm not asking for, again,
For analysis
This-
He wants to
purposes.
stay at $50.
this is one of those questions of, that really isn't based on market, right?
Yeah.
The assessor's value is not based on market, and neither is mine. But if, again, it goes back to that rationale of, if you can't do anything with this lot, then why does it have a value? And we have seen properties in the city that have a $1 value on them.
So what are the caveats that prevent it from being used for anything?
I don't have a list of the caveats here. We did run a title search, and there are quite a few caveats on there, but those are the caveats that the city put as a restriction on development.
So are they hydro and,
No, this would be, they put development caveats into certain properties saying that you can't develop on them. For example, the Darbo properties that we dealt with a little while ago, those ones also have some caveats in them that preclude something.
so the city wants to leave it as a park, I think is basically, okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, any comments required?
No comments.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Marcelo, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes file number 19-3895. Next property on the docket is file number 19-3964,
Thank you.
Paget Street, and we're dealing with a 2020 realty assessment, and we're on item number 3 on the docket. Thanks. Okay. Mr. Valderrama, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number 19-3964, a roll number of 1000644750. It has an address of Paget Street. We're dealing with the roll year 2020 using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The subject property is assessed at $1,460,000. It is a vacant residential 2 with the zoning of residential multifamily. Has a land area of 97,169 square feet. On page 3, The top part is the subject property, the photo, aerial photo of the subject property. And at the bottom of page 3 is the map for the subject property. On page 4 is the zoning map. It indicated residential multifamily. On page 5 are land sale comparables. There are 4, and they're all ranging from $13.69 up to $19.53 sale price per square foot. At the bottom of page 5 is the map for the comparable land sales. And on page 6 are the some details regarding the land valuation, classification, and liability allocation. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Does the appellant have any questions of the assessor's evidence?
Where is your first comparable located?
Roblin, that would be on page 5 at the bottom. The map, it's almost at the top left, towards the top left corner. The what color is that? Lavender color?
Okay.
Yeah.
And your remaining comparables, would you say in terms of the type of development in them, would you say that they are comparable to the subject?
Comparables 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
I would see the development in it. I didn't really
Where are they
inspect them,
located?
but however, the subject or comparables 3 and 4 are at the other side of Route 90 or the west side, and then the subject properties on the east side of Route 90, Mr. Chair. So I would say they are comparable in terms of development.
There's no difference in terms of the intensity of development on the west side versus the east side?
I don't see the difference. On my personal capacity, when I go in this area, I don't see the difference. They seem to have almost quite similar in terms of the density of the apartment blocks that are being developed in this area.
Those are my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No, I haven't.
Thank you. Mr. Stenning?
Your picture on page 3,
Yes, sir.
is it showing some buildings?
On page 3, oh, the subject property.
That's what we're dealing with on that you've got your roll number on there.
Yes, that's correct.
So what is,
I believe they're just trailers. They're not really buildings that are.
have you looked at the property?
No, I haven't seen the property, sir. And these are, I believe these are 2018 pictures. So it's not the current 2019 picture, aerial photo.
Okay, you said the picture was taken when?
2018, I believe, sir. Early 2018. This is our mapping full, system.
So, what's your value per square foot?
Value per square foot, sir, is on page 6.
Page 6. I didn't
The
get
second spreadsheet or second row in there, $15.03 per square foot.
15.
Yes, sir.
So your comparables, am I reading all this right? 419, 219, 481, 1002
I'm sorry, sir?
on your page 5.
Oh, yes, sir. Oh, my comparables,
Square foot, per square foot.
sale price per square foot is between $13.69 up to $19.53 per square foot. Towards the bottom, second.
Okay,
second
I'm
row
sorry,
towards the
that's why
bottom.
I'm reading it wrong. Okay, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you.
I was looking at the other top part. All right,
Okay.
give me a minute.
Anything else, Mr. Stenning?
No, I think, I'm okay with that for
Okay.
now. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Valderrama, I'm just looking at page 3, the map. So this is all, it's basically away from the tracks a bit, the main line, Sterling Line, Paget Street. The development around it has been, I guess, developed in the last 5 years, would that be fair to say? There's
Well, in this area, yes, I would say yes.
we're just east of
IKEA here and
yeah, Keniston
the
and
outlet mall, yes.
Sterling Line, okay. So we've got all more recent commercial development, and this is what this lot is zoned for. On page 5, the 2 on Sterling Line, they would be west of the factory outlet mall, would that be fair? Where they built into that little triangle right along the CN main line there?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
It's west of Route 90, yes, sir.
Okay, and they're selling for about $19.50 a square foot.
A few years ago, yes, sir.
Yeah, and there you're assessing for approximately 15. Okay, land area, okay. And those were larger lots. One was 209,000, one was 436,000, and your subject property is at 97,000 square feet.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, all right. That's my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
Okay. If you turn to page 2, please. So again, the roll number is 1000644750. Land area is 95,832 square feet. This is zone RMF-M, residential multifamily medium. The assessment year is 2020. The current assessment is $1,460,000, and the requested assessment is $1,058,000. If you turn over to the next page, you can see the property again with the site map. And if we turn over to the next page in terms of the property description, again, a 2.2 acre parcel located west of Paget Street and north of Sterling Line Parkway, subject to zone RMF-N. The surrounding properties are a mix of multi-residential and light industrial uses. We're not questioning the highest and best use. In terms of the approach to value, we're using the direct sales comparison approach. If you can please turn to the chart here, we've used 10 indices here. Some are probably in common with the assessors. The first one, I believe, is 5429 Roblin. That one sold in 2016 for $2.5 million. 182,592 square feet, 1369. Again, they range in value. Number 10 is 1048 Wilkes, is actually, it's actually the closest one to the subject. It's about 400 meters away. They are currently developing it into a multi-residential building, and that one sold for $4.12 in 2017. In terms of the proximity, the closest comparable property to the subject site is Index 10. These two properties are only 400 meters apart as well. Index 10 shares some of the same characteristics as a subject that is not part of a large-scale development. And what I mean by large-scale development is that what is east of or west of Keniston is a large-scale multi-phase development, which is, I think, different than what is being developed here, which are essentially individual lots that are being developed one by different owners, not under any type of master plan, as in the other side of Keniston. So we chose index 1, 4, 5, and 10 as the comparisons, and the average of the 4 came out to 1104 per square foot. That is what we are basing our assessment on. So 95,832 square feet multiplied by 1104 gives you an estimated value of $1,057,985. And we ask that you round that off to $1,058,000. that's our brief.
Thank you. Is there, Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Robert, any questions of the appellant?
Oh, I haven't just read this.
Okay, Mr. Standing, any questions?
Well, the three that you've picked, 4, 5, and 10. 10 gives you a pretty good edge on Wilkes, 412.
That one is exactly, as I mentioned, is only 400 meters from the subject. Now, it is being currently developed into a multi-residential building. I drove by this last week. So, it is slightly smaller, but again, these parcels in this area were all former industrial lands, and they're being developed individually. And this is what I'm trying to get across to you, is that they're different than those large-scale, multi-phase developments that are on the other side of Kenniston. Those ones achieve higher value for that reason. You're paying into essentially a better neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just, I just pointed out because, you know, you'd have to have a real good look at that. That's very, very low. So and that's on Wilkes.
Yeah.
And we don't know, do we know where that is on Wilkes?
If you look at my map,
Assume it's at the top.
if you see the street that's called Stovall on it on page 2. Okay. Now, it is called Wilkes, but it is actually fronting Stovall. And if I may just get up and actually show you where that lot is located.
Yeah, if you would.
It's actually located right here.
Oh,
So it would be right about there.
yeah.
So here's our subject, that's our.
Yeah.
Could I see that myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over right over
So this is around, this is the location right there, even though it's not on Wilkes, it's actually fronting Stovall.
there. But does it go all the way to go?
No, it does not.
You have access to this property, is that correct?
To the subject?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is going on there? Just tell me what these,
These are all going to be multi-residential
no,
developments.
what's going on with this parking or whatever somebody said there? What are they? Is there?
Those are trailers for the future development. So before they develop a project, they'll usually put some trailers on site, crews, that type of thing.
Have you been out to look at this?
Yes.
Okay.
So these, again, all of this area here is going to be developed in the same way that those other residential developments are there. Like below it, you see those residential developments?
Yep. So it is in the planning stage of being developed?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Mr. Sten. Robert, any questions?
Nope, I've
Okay.
followed it.
Mr. Chair, just a quick one.
Of course.
On that same index 10, the Wilkes property, when it was sold, was it RMFF zoning or RMFM zoning already, or was it an industrial prior to the sale?
So I can't answer that because I looked at the actual sale. We look at our sales from Sabre, which is the MLS site.
Okay.
Okay. And Sabre said RMFM. I don't know if the RMFM came after the sale or before the sale. If it became before the sale, then it would make a difference, because you're probably going to incur $30,000-$40,000 to have it rezoned.
Because I just heard in passing that some of the areas here are industrial and then being redeveloped into multifamily or commercial or retail.
Yeah, so there's a mix surrounding the property of industrial and residential. It's, there's no master plan that, you know, says this is going to be residential. And again, that's where I think the distinction between this area and the area that's west of Kenniston, which is essentially under a master plan.
I think that's, one more question, Mr. Chair. Is it fairly typical in this area as a whole? An industrial site might be converted into a retail or a multifamily complex?
Is it typical?
Yeah, have you seen any particular property?
So if you
From
go
an
on,
industrial.
it's not in the pictures here.
Mhm.
You can probably see it in the overhead on the first page. Yeah, so if you gain your bearings here and you can see where the CPR line cuts through there?
Which picture?
Two, yeah, okay. So that CPR line cuts this area in half. Now, what's west of the CPR line is essentially a mix of office and industrial, light industrial.
Okay, I see. Light industrial.
So they've got a few different types of uses in this area,
Right.
not just residential.
Okay. I think that's the only questions I have. Those are the only questions I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marcelo, page 7, in your summary, you make a statement that the assessment is $1,375,000. I guess that's probably wrong, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's 1,460.
$1,460,000, okay. Okay, and my next question, looking on page 6 of your land sales, that land sale number 10 on the chart, that's about $10 a square foot lower than any other sale you presented, even though it's closest to the subject property. And then we have those two on Sterling Line, number 7 and 8, that I believe you're choosing to ignore?
I would definitely ignore those. I don't think those are comparable at all to the subject. As I said, this is, and you have to stress that, I'm trying to stress this, those developments are part of a master plan. Now, that is a large-scale development. I forget who the developer is, but that thing has been done in phases. It's not the same thing as this property. These are being developed individually, one by different developers.
How would you compare the location?
In terms of location,
Well, you know what, I'm referring to the CN main line, compared, your subject property compared to 7 and 8, which I believe are built right along the tracks.
they are built around the tracks.
Right along
However,
the
that
tracks.
is a CPR main line.
Yeah,
Sorry, that is the CNR main line.
yeah,
There is a setback on those.
okay, but your subject property is, quarter mile away from the rail line?
On Paget?
Yeah, it's further, it is quite a bit further away from the main line.
It's quite a bit south of the main line.
Yeah, okay.
But it is next to the CPR secondary line.
That crosses on the west side, okay.
Yeah, if you look at the overhead picture on page 2, you
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
can see that.
That spur line, yeah. Then we've got the Canada Post Office, I think, terminal there right beside the subject, on the north side of the subject property.
Yeah.
Stove hasn't been punched through there yet, or, yeah, okay. Okay. And it's currently, is there a permit taken out to build a 6-story apartment or condos or something? Do you know?
I don't know the exact scale of the buildings, but again, it's residential multifamily, so it's gonna be low-rise multi-residential.
So 4 or 5 stories?
Yeah,
Condos or private Or
That I don't
press
know.
release, okay, all right. Okay. Mr. Valderrama, any requirement for summary at all?
No, sir.
Any questions arising from the panel? We good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Sello, any comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. That concludes item number 3 on the docket. Does anybody need a break right now?
Yes, please.
10-minute break?
I'll need one around 4 o'clock, but I'm
Oh.
good.
Okay, we'll do one more.
Very good.
Yeah, I think we're,
Well, one more.
sorry, Council.
Then we could do a break.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's another one on the debt.
Okay, so the next one on the docket is item number 4, file number 19-3965 on Paget Street, Paget?
This would be the sister property.
Okay,
Yeah, sister property.
here you go, Robert.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Council. Okay, we are dealing with the 2020 realty assessment, vacant residential land, vacant res 2. Mr. Valderrama, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one has a file number of 19-3965. The property has a roll number of 1000-644-7800 with an address of Paget Street, or Paget Street. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The property is assessed at $1,375,000. The property is a vacant residential 2 with a zoning of residential multifamily. Has a land area of 105,218 square feet. On page 3, on top is the aerial photo of the subject property. It is right beside the previous property that was discussed. And on the bottom of the page is the map of the subject property. On page 4 is the zoning map for the subject property indicating RMFM. And on page 5 are 4 comparables. They're ranging from $13.69 to $19.53 sale price per square foot, which are the same as the previous property that was discussed. The bottom of page 5 is the map for the comparable land sales. Page 6, land valuation summary, which indicates $13.07 per square foot for assessed rate. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Mr. Marcelo, any questions of the assessor?
Would you say that there's any, did you acknowledge any type of influence because of the hydro corridor and the rail corridor that are right beside it?
On the assessment on this one, I believe the land influence is indicated rail line and not the hydro corridor.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Standing, any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't have any, thank you.
Thank you.
None for me.
Robert, you're good. And so I've got Mr. Valderrama, where you're assessing it at $13.07 a square foot.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and looking at the map, there is front access to that lot, is that right? Yes.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Or south side access, okay.
It is also the same owner as the previous property that we discussed, which has a higher assessment per square foot.
A larger lot though, right? A little bit larger.
This one is, yeah, a bit larger.
Okay.
But,
Okay, thank you, that's my only questions.
thank you, sir.
Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
Okay, if you turn to page 2, you can see the overhead. And the current assessment is $1,375,000. We're asking for an assessment of $1,154,000. You can see on page 3 that the two properties that we've dealt with are next to each other. Same owner. This is a 2.4 acre parcel, 104,544 square feet. Again, on Paget Street, north of Sterling Line Parkway. It's next to a hydro corridor and next to a CP rail secondary line. And I'm going to test your eyes out, but you can actually see the hydro tower next to this property there. It's barely visible, but it looks like a faint little line right around the middle of the lot. So it has, in our opinion, two influences. Now, in terms of the sales that we've used on this property, it's the same sales. We've gone over this evidence. We've basically said that we're asking for the same rate per square foot of 1104. Same reasoning. We've just come out with a slightly different value on it. And again, we've said that this one is 104,544 square feet. The other one is slightly smaller. Yet there's a $2 per square foot difference on these, which we think is a little bit too much even for the economies of scale and the graph that the city uses to rate these. So that's my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Standing, any questions of the appellant?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Philick, any questions?
No, we went over the same
Okay.
analysis in the previous one. Adjoining property, I have none.
Thank you. And I am good also. Okay, that concludes item number 4, file number 13-3965. And I think we're going to take a 10-minute recess, please. I'll now call the hearing back to order.
You're welcome.
Okay, next property on the docket is item number 5, Creek Bend Road, file number 19-3601, and it's a 2020 Realty Appeal. Mr. Valderrama, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next property has a file number of 19-3601. The roll number is 0808-1214815, has an address of Creek Bend Road. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. It is assessed at $1,067,000. It is a vacant residential 2 with the zoning of residential multifamily. The land area is 65,656 square feet. On page 3, the top part is the aerial photo of the subject property. And at the bottom part is the map of the subject property. On page 4 is the zoning map for the subject property, indicating it is a residential multifamily. On page 5 are land sale comparables. They're all ranging from $21.81 up to $32.72. Sale price per square foot. At the bottom of page 5 is the map for the subject or the comparable land sales. And on page 6 is the land valuation, indicating it is at $16.25 net rate per square foot. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Marcelo, any questions of the assessor?
In your opinion, what is the best comparable that you have for this property?
Good question. Well, first thing is that all of them are north of $16.25. They all have land influences except for the subject property. In terms of size, the boulevard is close. However, in terms of geographic proximity or location-wise, St. Anne seems to be the closest one, which is smaller, almost half of the subject property.
And what is the price per square foot on that one?
For St. Anne's,
Yes.
it's $32.72 per square foot, sale price per square foot.
And it's
Also
smaller.
double. And it's half small, more than half. And sold at 2018. Has a heavy traffic influence.
Would you say that this one is very close to the perimeter?
Based on the map that I have on page 5 at the bottom part, yes, it is close to perimeter.
Do you know if this lot is serviced?
There's no land influence, so I would say it is. However, usually if it has no service, it would indicate in the land influence, Mr. Chair. And in this case, there's no land influence, so I would just deduce or assume from that it is serviced. If it's not, then there's no information guaranteeing that it is serviced, but since there's no land influence that indicated there's no service, then it would be serviced.
And does this property actually have, I guess it uses the access for the other properties, that's correct?
Based on the map, on aerial photo of the subject property on page 3.
But it does not have its own access and egress at this point.
I'm looking at the page 3 of my presentation. It looks like it has on Creek Bend.
Okay.
Yeah. It has an entrance.
So there is some
It's-
shared access here then? Because those properties in the back would have to access it through,
Oh, you mean for other properties
Yeah.
as well? Oh, okay. I thought for the subject property of thrown off. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just a bit thrown off. Well, the other properties may share that same
Okay.
same
Okay.
access. And I don't have the information with me, Mr. Chair, if they are owned by the same owners as this subject property.
those are my questions.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Philic, any questions of the assessor?
No, I do not have it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stenny?
I do, yes, just 1 second.
Sure. No worry.
You're using 1625 a square foot, right?
That's correct answer on page 6, yes.
Your comparables are not, and even if I take out number 4, they're 2307, 2266, 2181, correct?
That's correct, sir.
So where do you, if you're using these as comps, where would you get 1625?
There could be a lot of factors that may affect it. That's why it's at $16. Again, it's a model-driven rate, net rate. However, basing it on these sales, the comparables 1, 2, and 3 are a bit towards the west compared to the subject property, and that they may be within the ballpark of the same land area. However, these are all way west than the subject property, and the way I chose these comparables, I chose the ones that are closer to the land area, and then next is the where it is located.
Do you not find anything more in keeping with 1625?
Again, based on how I choose my comparables, I try to choose what's comparable in terms of the land area and then the area where it is at, or the sale is at. In terms of sale price per square foot, closer to $16 a square foot. And basing it on my criteria, I had a difficult time on looking for one. There may be some, but then they may be in the range of maybe higher in terms of land area, or maybe in terms of geographic proximity, they may be farther, or they may be closer. I can't speak to that, but based on my criteria, these are the ones that I found.
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Standing. Mr. Valderrama,
Yes, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
not sure how far south we are on St. Anne's Road. Are we close to the perimeter here, Creek Bend, or are we?
Oh, the comparable for?
No, actually, the subject property, I'm not sure where the location is.
Oh,
Could you?
Mr. Chair, on page 3 would be a little bit more, yeah, it's closer to the perimeter.
So we're north of the, still, just north of the perimeter?
Yes, I would say.
Okay.
May not be stone throw away, but.
Yeah, yeah, on the
it's-
north
yeah.
side of the perimeter within a couple of blocks, okay.
And on page 5 as well, Mr. Chair, at the bottom picture or map. That's the blue dot. That's the subject property right there on page 5.
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Chair.
blue.
Yes, the
Blue one,
dot.
okay, there we are, yeah, got it, Trans-Canada, okay. 101, all
And the
right.
red is the St. Anne's Road.
So we're across from St. Vital, okay. West side, all right, okay, now I understand. And on page 3, there are, looks like 3 separate buildings within this square. I guess I assume that the adjacent properties that are owned by the subject property owner, possibly, or?
As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, I wasn't able to check and I don't have that information
Okay.
with me right now. So
Okay.
I can't speak to it and I can't answer it. I hope I could, but
Yeah.
just for more clarification.
In regards to the appellant asking, so there's an entrance which runs through the subject property but services the other 3 buildings, I guess. That's
It looks like
that
it's-
provides access to all 3 buildings.
It looks like it does.
Yeah, it's on this
However,
road.
if we look at the property south of the subject property,
It's
there's
got
also
entrances. Okay.
entrances.
Okay, yeah.
One entrance that
Okay.
may be used by the other properties as well.
All right. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
Okay, if you turn to page 2 of my brief, and this is Creek Bend Project Incorporated, and there's no civic address, just Creek Bend Road. 65,656 square feet, residential multifamily medium, and the current assessment is $1,067,000. We're asking for $854,000. This is a description of the property. The property is a irregular shaped vacant land parcel on the east side of St. Anne's, just north of the perimeter highway. Surrounding land uses are predominantly residential, low density and medium density. If you turn to page 6 of my presentation, I'll take you through the comparison chart here. So the first part of it is the subject. Again, 65,656 square feet, $16.25 per square foot, south of St. Anne's Road by Perimeter Highway. A few local comparisons. We have that it's not serviced. I don't know if it has been serviced since the last time we looked at this property. It may have been, but we're not sure. Comparable number 1 is 1201 St. Anne's Road, BR Res 2 Dakota Crossing, same neighborhood as our subject. It's smaller, sold for $425,000 in 2016. That's $13 per square foot. Again, that's approximately 250 meters north of the subject property. The next property over is in Sage Creek, 185 Des Hivernant. That's 60,960 square feet, 700,000, 1148 per square foot, developed into condos, slightly older sale. The next one over again, slightly older sale, Sage Creek, 138,876 square feet at 1148 per square foot, again developed into condos. The next one over is Southtown Road, Bridgewater, 95,547 square feet in 2014. That one sold for $15.39. RMFL, Waverly West, land designated as higher density residential. So this would be a larger scale multi-residential development, higher density. The next one over St. Mary's Road, River Park South, 56,628 square feet, sold in 2016 for $18.73 per square foot, developed into condos. Bridgewater, the next one over, 2014, sold for $10.95 per square foot, RMFL. Again, this is higher density residential. In terms of proximity, the closest comparable is, again, 250 meters away, and we have to take into account that this is quite close to the perimeter highway. So this is the closest comparable. It sold for $13 per square foot in 2016. And that is what we are basing our rate per square foot on, $13 per square foot. So that is why we're asking for $854,000.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
Just a couple, Mr. Chair, if I may. In the notes, was indicated that Comp 1 was the closest in terms of the reference date and the subject property, correct?
Correct.
In terms of assessed land, at the column of land assessed square foot, that's the first one, the Cota Crossing, 1201 St. Anne's Road. This is this almost half
Yeah.
of the subject property?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the logic here is that the price per square foot actually falls as you start getting larger. So this is a considerably smaller parcel that sold for $13 per square foot. If you follow that logic, then our parcel should actually be worth less than that per square foot. But that's all the evidence that we have is $13 per square foot, so we capped it at 13. But yes, if you follow the
Economies of scale?
yeah, that the subject should actually be lower per square foot than $13.
However, in terms of zoning, they differ, is that correct? This one is RMFS and the subject is RMFM?
Slightly higher density, correct? But again, that doesn't preclude that they can't put a multi-residential development on it, like a condo building, low rise. It's just that the size is slightly smaller.
So would you say the St. Mary's Road, the River Park South one, the one that's measuring 56,628 square feet, wouldn't follow the economies of scale, correct?
I would say that that one is a slightly better location, higher traffic. So I would say that that's probably why it has achieved a higher price. You'll recall that we are fairly close to the perimeter here, so that's probably why we're achieving values that low.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Mr. Standing, any questions of the appellant?
Any questions?
Mr. Standing, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Mr. Phillip?
No, most of the questions I had was discussed, or was covered in the discussion that took
Okay.
place between the two.
Thank you. Okay, Marcelo, regarding the comment it might be serviced, but it isn't, or, again.
So the last time that we dealt with this property, at that point, it was not serviced. However, since then, I don't know what has happened.
Okay,
Um,
shall we look at let's look at your map on page 3. Are these all the same owners, these 4 properties? Do you know?
To tell you the truth, I didn't check, but I would probably say yes.
Yeah, okay, possibly.
Possibly,
Okay,
yeah.
so I imagine the service, and I'm looking at the property to the right or the east of the subject property. I guess there's gotta be service coming in off of Creek Bend along the access road into that property on the right side. So,
Yeah, I don't know how the servicing actually goes, but,
yeah. So you suspect it probably is service?
I suspect at this point it probably is serviced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And any appeal history on this property that you're aware of?
It was appealed last assessment cycle.
Okay, any comments on that, or any knowledge of it, and the results?
It was reduced.
Could I ask to what? Do you have that detail, or?
I believe to about $854,000.
Okay, we'll look it up, I guess. And was it carried forward to the municipal board, or any pending municipal
No.
boards? And any development going on here at all?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Okay, not yet, all right. Okay, that concludes, any requirements for summary, Mr. Valderrama? Everybody good?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes file 19-3601 Creek Bend Road. Okay, next property on the docket is file number 19-4221. No address, looks like it's on St. Mary's Road. It's a 2020 realty assessment, vacant res 2 zoning or use code. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, just bear with me 1 second, please.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, item number 6 on the docket. When you are ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next property has a file number of 19-4221. Has a roll number of 08021277300. Has an address of St. Mary's Road. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The property is assessed at $1,270,000. The property type is vacant residential 2, as earlier mentioned. That's a zoning of residential multi-family. The land area is 56,581 square feet. Next page, page 2, there is a sale of the subject property back in 2016. It was sold for $1,016,000. It has a land valuation of $22.45 per square foot. On page 3, the top portion has the aerial photo of the subject property. And on page 3, we have the map of the subject property, where it is located. And on page 4 is the zoning map indicating residential multifamily. On page 5, there are 4 comparables on top. They are all ranging from $23.07 up to $32.72 sale price per square foot. At the bottom page of page 5 is the map of the comparable land sales. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Marcelo, any questions on the assessor's evidence?
Yeah. Are you aware that a sale took place on this property?
Yes, as
Okay.
indicated, as earlier mentioned.
And what was the
2000.
price per square foot on that sale?
Let me just quickly calculate that, Mr. Chair.
1873.
Oh, there you go. That's quick. Okay, I'll take that, Mr. Chair.
So, and your price per square foot is exactly at what?
The assessment?
Yeah.
The assessment is at $22.45.
Okay. So why the discrepancy?
The $22.45 per square foot is based on a time adjusted, on information that are, information or sales that are time adjusted to come up with an April 1st, 2018 reference date. And that's where the big discrepancy lies.
And do you have any information on these time adjustments?
I don't have it with me now, Mr. Chair, no.
Do you know what the percentage is?
I think he's
Don't have it
answered.
on top.
Yeah, he's answered, he doesn't have it.
No, I don't have the information, sorry.
So would you say that the time adjustment, sorry, the assessed value is simply based on a time adjusted value of the sale?
Not the sale, but market sales of, the market sales that we gathered from all over the city.
So it's not even based on the individual sale itself?
No, no,
You
no.
use the market approach?
Yes, sir, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Those are the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Philic, any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Mr. Standing, any questions of the assessor?
Yeah. What is the zoning on this property? You may have it there, but I haven't found it.
It's on page 4, sir.
On page 4?
Yes, sir. RMFM. Residential multifamily, medium to high residential density.
Not for commercial or,
As of the moment, the zoning stands, no, it's not for mixed use, residential mixed use, or multifamily, RMU.
I mean, looking at the property, it looks like it's being almost saved for commercial use. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe.
right now it is zoned as RMFM, however, in future use,
That zoning could be changed, I assume.
well, there's a process that you can change the zoning, however, in terms of the owners, what they think, and hypothetical situations in the future, I am not sure what could be a good,
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I'm just digging a bit, that's.
it could be changed. I'm not saying it can't.
No, and I
Yes.
realize it could too, so,
Yes, sir.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Standing. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, in your opinion, we've got a sale on that subject property in August of 2016. We're estimating market value approximately 2 years later. Was that an arm's length sale, do you know, in 2016?
Based on the information I gather, between purchaser and vendor, I don't think they are associated.
Okay,
I don't think they are, they know each other. But in terms of market exposure, I don't have that information.
okay,
And all the other information, I don't have that.
okay. As far as you know, it was arm's length.
Basing it on vendor and purchaser, yes.
Okay, and in your opinion, professional opinion, I guess, in 2 years in the marketplace, has the value of land increased? Vacant land in South St. Vital.
In general, in my opinion, vacant land are becoming more scarce as time goes on because of developments. And with that, in my mind, I think vacant land goes up in value.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's my only questions. Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
The Oaks on St. Mary's Road Limited, this land area is 56,628 square feet, zoned RMFM. Again, this is multi-residential family median. assessed at $1,270,000. If you look at page 3, you can see an overhead look of this property. Subject property is an irregular shaped vacant land parcel located on the east side of St. Mary's Road, north of Britannica Road, and south of Nova Vista Drive. Subject property, again, 56,628 square feet. It's zone RMFM. DAZ 39-2011 was approved on September 28, 2018 for the construction of a 4-story multifamily building with the following specifications: 46 feet high, 57 units, 88 parking stalls, 25 parking stalls, 1 approach off of St. Mary's Road, 40-foot rear setback, length 304 feet. Surrounding land uses are predominantly commercial, retail, and residential. If you turn to page 5, you can see the sales comparison approach. So we've used a few sales here. The average of the sales is $13.10. If you look at the property at page 6, you can see the first comparable. This is 912 Archibald. Again, this is 33,111 square feet, zone C2, next to a railway corridor. And again, this one sold for, I believe, $10.65 per square foot. And as you can see, they're currently constructing a multi-residential development on it. The next page over, index 2, 1201 St. Anne Road. Again, you can see the site is 32,695 square feet. They've built a multi-residential development on it. That one sold for $13 in 2016. The next one over, index 3, D'Ivernant. This is in Sage Creek. Again, 60,960 square feet. This was developed into multi-residential. And again, 155 D'Ivernant. Again, multi-residential development. Slightly older sales. Southtown Road, index 5. $15.39. That one sold in 2014. And again, index 6 Southtown Road again. Another picture. Now, index 7 is of course the subject. So based on the research, we primarily looked at index 2, 5, and 7. The sample provided for a range of sales between 1065 and 1871. I used the average of these 3 properties, which was $15.71. And again, that rounded comes out to $890,000. And that is my brief.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
Just one, Mr. Chair. On page 5, the sales, there's only, the subject property is the only RMFM, correct?
Correct.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Mr. Frillick, any questions of the appellant?
I do. This property was purchased in 2016.
Correct.
Do you feel that the value of it has gone down?
So we looked at the comparables and came up with an average rate. Do I feel that the market rate has probably not? No, probably not. However, we're presenting comparisons along with it. Now, you're saying that the subject sale price is probably the best indicator of value, I would probably agree with you.
So this property was valued at, as you said, $18.73.
That's what it sold for.
And I confirmed
Yeah.
that. So, in effect, now you're saying that it's actually gone down to $890.
Well, I mean, essentially, we're looking at this from the same perspective that the city is looking from. They're using a model to come up with a value of it based on the sales that they look at, okay? We're looking at sales to come up with a value for this property based on what we see. Now, in terms of the inflation that we put on that, or the increase in value to account for that time between the sale and the reference date, time adjustments are a particular thing. And in order to do a proper time adjustment, you actually need double sales. And there are none that we can rely on. So in terms of what we could inflate this price, there's just not enough information to give us a proper number on how we could inflate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Mr. Stenning, any questions?
Oh, I have nothing. Thank you.
And I have, yes, my question is, so there's been it's gone through zoning, there's an apartment, is there any construction going on there now? Has it started, the development?
I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There is a application, so.
Yeah, that was approved, yeah, okay. All right, no other questions? Mr. Valderrama, any requirement for summary?
No, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
thank you.
you good, Marcelo?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay, that concludes item number 6. That was file number 194221. Okay, last property on the docket is item number 7. And we are dealing with 133 Horace Street. And we are dealing with a 2020 realty assessment. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, when you are ready, please, 133 Horace Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number of 19-3905. It has a roll number of 0609085500, an address of 133 Horace Street. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The property is assessed at $301,000. The property type is a vacant residential 2 with a zoning of C2 for commercial community. Has a land area of 6,111 square feet. On page 2, you have the summary, land valuation summary, which indicates a rate of $48.93 or $48.93 per square foot. On page 3, on the top part is the photo of the subject property, and on the bottom part is the map for the subject property. On page 4 are the land sale comparables. I have 3. They vary from $42.93 up to $44.24 sale price per square foot. At the bottom of page 4 is the map of the subject or comparable land sales in comparison to the land or to the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. So, any questions of the assessor?
Are any of your comparables parking lots?
None. None of them are parking lots.
Do they have C2 designation on them?
They're multifamily and two-family, or R2, in terms of zoning.
Those are my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Stenning, any questions of the assessor?
Well, same thing, it's, you're assessing it as vacant property
Yes, sir.
with no income?
No income, no, sir.
Well, are there, these are parked cars on there, right?
Yes, in the picture.
So we assume then that there is income coming in from it.
I am not sure. I don't have an information regarding if it's a parking lot that's earning income or the picture says, it indicates that there are parked cars. However, if it's earning income or not, I don't have that information, sir.
You did get information from the tenant, though, assumedly, at some point?
Or from the owner,
Yeah, the owner property.
income and expense. Since this is valued or assessed under cost methodology, I don't think we have requested for income and expense information.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Phillip?
No, I was gonna point out that it obviously is being used as a parking lot, and reading what I have here, I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Valderrama, looking on page 3, is it possible it belongs to the commercial building and it's actually used for business parking? That's why there's no income coming in?
Is it a possibility?
There's a commercial building there assessed at $1,061,000.
The possibility it's being used by the adjacent to the east?
Yes.
I'm not sure, Mr. Chair. I cannot.
Right now, it's not
During that?
assessed as an income producing parking lot. It's just assessed as a vacant lot used for parking.
Whether it's used for parking or not, which obviously it is being used as parking, it is being assessed as a vacant residential.
And it's zoned as C2, where are we, just off Taché and Horace, okay, we're addressed on Horace, at the rear of the buildings on Taché. Is Horace, is that one south of, I'm not sure, how close are we to the hospital? I guess that's my question.
Did I look at my maps?
Horace is on the,
By Marion?
what's the
Marion.
road that goes in? Marion?
Yeah,
On the right side of Marion.
okay. Okay,
Yeah, I cannot,
okay.
I would guess it's probably south.
And the comparables are all zoned residential B-Res 2, same as the parcel use code on the, but the subject has got C2 zoning, the others are zoned residential 2. In your opinion, which is more valuable zoning? Commercial or residential in that neighborhood?
Between the residential and the C2 zoning, I would say C2 is the more valuable zoning.
Okay. So it makes it more valuable than the comparables, in your opinion?
Based on the zoning, yes.
Yeah, okay, for zoning use, okay. All right, and then it is a cost property, so you are assessing for, there's a land assessment plus a minimal assessment for the depreciated asphalt, of $2,000.
Yes, that's correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
that's how we come up with 301,000. All right,
Yes, sir.
no other questions, thank you. Marcelo, when you are ready, please.
This property is on 133 Horace. You can see a picture of it there. This is a 20 stall parking lot, zone C2. The current value is 301,000. It's we're asking for 204,000. On page 3, you can see the overhead of it, and on page 4, you can see its location in proximity to Marion. On the property description, the subject property is a 6,111 square foot rectangular parcel located between Kenny Street and Tashi Avenue on the north side of Horace Avenue. Surrounding properties are a mix of multi-residential, single-family dwelling and light commercial properties and parking. The lot was rezoned R2 to C2 in 2012 and allowed for the creation of a non-accessory, and I stress that, non-accessory parking lot. Previous to this, the site was used as a non-conforming parking lot for tenants, customers and staff of 130 Marion Street. Prior to this, a house existed on the site and was demolished in 1999. The parking lot on site consists of 20 stalls, electrical servicing, and paved. We've determined that the highest and best use is currently the current use. We're not questioning it. In terms of the income approach to value, we've used the income approach to value on this property. We've looked at other properties that are parking lots, and we've tried to establish a parking rate income for this property, and that is gross income. Now, we feel that this parking lot could achieve a rent of between $85 and $100 per month. Therefore, we have taken the midway point of the two at $92.50 per stall gross on a monthly basis. So in terms of the gross income, we've done 20 stalls times $92.50 times 12 months. That gives us a gross income of $22,200. Expenses, parking expenses are consistent in most areas. Typical expenses account for items such as management, insurance, utilities, snow clearing, cleaning and repair, and maintenance. So we have a median of 48.03 on these ones, an average of 47.58% as an expense ratio. We've chosen 45% as an expense ratio, typical for parking lots. On page 8, again, gross income minus expenses. We arrive at a net operating income of $12,212. Now, in terms of the capitalization rate, there are a few sales to draw from where the sale price achieved was based on the income stream of the parking lot purchased. Parking lots are transitional uses for something that will be developed in the future. Unfortunately, the time frame between the transitional use and the future use is difficult to predict and can last for decades before the future use is established. Also, many purchasers do not register sales, which makes it difficult to find parking lot sales. Added to this is the motivation. Many purchasers are motivated, and were it not for the motivation, the sales of some of these properties would not have produced the same results in the open market. The following sales are sales that occurred prior to the April 1, 2018 reference date. The majority of these properties are located in downtown or on the cusp of the downtown. You can see that we have 6 comparables here. Now, these are imputed cap rates, so how we work this is that we look at the parking lot, we see how many stalls it has, we give it a rent of what we feel it could generate on a monthly basis, and then we apply a proper expense ratio. Now, we chose 45%. Again, this is very typical for parking lots to have about a 45% expense ratio. And as you can see there, the ranges go between 4.74 and 7.54. Now, we chose index 5. 441 Spence is probably being the best comparable for this property. That one has an imputed cap rate of 5.99%. We've chosen a cap rate therefore of 6% for this property, which is again slightly outside of the downtown, actually more outside of the downtown. So in terms of the final consolidation, we take the net operating income divided by the cap rate, and that gives us the value. So $12,212 net operating income divided by a 6% cap rate gives us a value of $203,500. And that is what we're basing our value on.
We rounded it to 2.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Valderrama, so we evidently have an income producing parking lot on this lot that you weren't aware of and you're not assessing for. Okay. So, any questions of the appellant?
Just one on the cap rate on page 8. I was just looking at the street names of these sales. Would you agree that these are all northwest, far northwest from the subject property?
Is that your only question?
I think so. I think that's the only question.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stanning?
This parking lot, I'm assuming this is used by people in the building, or is it open to the public?
I believe it is for tenants of 130 or 130 Marion Street, not the building next to it, which is an apartment building. So if you saw my picture there, you'll see that there is an apartment building located next to it.
Yeah, that's what I was.
That's not who it's for.
So it's not an in-park parking lot?
No, it's not an in-park parking lot, but it is a parking lot. It's a non-accessory, and that's why I stress if this were an accessory parking lot, it means that it's servicing the property next to it. For example, if it was an accessory parking lot to the apartment building,
Yeah.
there would essentially be no assessment of the parking lot. There may be some assessment of some parking income, but it's not done in the same way. The non-accessory means that it's not tied to the individual, to another property, meaning that it's basically a parking lot on its own.
Where did you get the figure of $92.50 a month?
So $92.50, if you look at the chart there,
Yeah, I've got it.
we have rents for parking lots, and what I collect in terms of rents for parking lots are based on what area the parking is located in. For example, I have a separate chart for the Exchange District, East and West. I have a separate chart for the CBD, the Central Business District, so that would be properties south of Portage Avenue in the Central Business District. And then I have a separate chart for areas outside of the downtown. Now, that is why I use this particular chart, because it's representative of properties that are slightly outside of the downtown. Now, this property is much more outside of the downtown than those, but those are the best comparisons that we have. Now, there are a lot of properties like this scattered throughout St. Boniface, I'll tell you that. And many of them are valued on income. So this is why I switched this valuation to the income approach.
No, I appreciate that. I would just really saying, is that what they actually pay, or you using a model of various parking lots?
Exactly. It's basically a model of
All right.
various parking lots.
But you don't know really what they pay?
No, we don't know.
That's really.
The city hasn't requested that information, and we don't have it. But it is a parking lot, and therefore we believe it should be valued as a parking lot.
Yeah, no, I don't want to belabor it, I just want to ask. That's fine, thank you. I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Phillip?
No questions.
Okay.
That's everything I know. But
Okay, Marcelo, that is my question. You don't have an income and expense statement for this parking lot,
That was never requested by the city.
but you don't have one. You don't know what they're charging whoever. Okay, first of all, it's a highly, it's a very dense commercial area around there. There's a lot of demand for parking.
That's right.
So the assessor isn't aware it's a parking lot. Do you know if it's legally a parking lot with a permit issued?
So just to answer that, I don't know how the assessor could not be aware that it's a parking lot. All you have to do is look at it. The photography goes back many years, so it was simply a matter of them just having an overhead look of it.
Well-
It's been a parking lot since 2012.
Okay, but they
Actually,
weren't, they
sorry,
weren't-
it's been a parking lot since 1999 when the original house was burned down.
Okay, but that doesn't mean it was a legal parking lot. Income
No,
producing
but it's
parking
been a legal parking lot since 2012.
lot. Okay, well,
It's not a house.
no, I know, but
It's very difficult to put a house here.
I know, but to establish a parking lot, you have to have it approved.
It
through the
was approved.
neighborhood. Yeah, okay, somehow the city isn't aware of that, but it belongs to 130 Marion, what is 130 Marion?
130 Marion would be a retail location on Marion Street.
Okay,
So
what retail location?
I'm not aware of what the name is.
Okay, so it's their staff parks there?
Staff, customers.
Customers, okay, okay, so what do they charge their staff to park there?
We're not aware of that because, again, it's never been requested by the city.
Okay, so you've got no income expense statements for this lot. Is there any monthly parking, are any of the spaces rented out monthly that you're aware of?
We're not aware of that.
Okay. So you're not providing any actuals here, you're modeling it from your parking lot data.
That's typically how parking is done.
Okay, well, but we also usually have an income and expense statement. to
Those are
compare.
rarely used.
Wow. I think
The
the city
city,
uses them.
the city models all of their parking. They
Right.
don't use actuals.
Well, they do.
No, they don't.
The models create, well, in my opinion, the models
If you look
created
at,
from.
if you look at the
Okay.
modeled income of a parking lot,
Yeah.
it will never match the income
But
statement.
they've used, to develop the model, they used income and expense statements. That's,
It's
there's,
the accurate statement right there.
yeah, they've used actuals, so, okay, so we don't have any actuals here. All right. Mr. Valderrama, what happens now? Do you go and inspect this lot and establish it's a parking lot and reevaluate it? Would that be the process?
Again, I took down that as a note
Yeah.
for me, as a takeaway, and see
Okay.
how our department will look at this.
Okay, and as I note that the classification is other property, so it is,
60
for taxation purposes, 60% portioning for liability?
65%, yes,
65,
yes, sir.
okay, yeah, so that's the same, that would stay the same with the parking lot, right?
I think so.
65?
I think it
Yeah.
is also 60 B,
Okay,
yes.
okay, so there's no impact there. Okay. All right. And when you go to re-inspect the property and establish a parking lot, will there be a supplementary assessment issued possibly on change of use?
Good question. I don't know what the process, if it's just the puck that was changed.
Mhm.
So I haven't encountered any subs in terms of changing pucks or changing parcel use code.
Yeah,
It's the same zoning.
It's seldom that
yeah.
there
But it
could be
becomes an
any-
income producing property if it's a parking lot.
Yes, that's
As
correct.
opposed
In
to
terms
a
of the
vacant
valuation
land.
method used will be now
Yes.
switched to income. However, in terms of switching the parcel use code and if it warrants a supplementary assessment, I haven't seen any that we switch unless there's a structure that will go on the vacant land.
That's not really a physical change, it's
No.
an opinion of value.
Well, okay,
And
but
also
okay.
change in,
So I would assume that this property owner is gonna receive an income and expense statement request from now on.
oh yes, if it
Based on the information.
changes the parcel use code to a parking lot or a
Okay.
surface parking lot.
Then the methodology will change
Yes, sir.
and possibly a supplementary assessment, possibly. I
Depending-
guess that's the department's policy decision, okay. All right,
So, so you might say since 2012, this still has been assessed just as a vacant property? by the city?
A vacant lot, yes, sir.
Even though somehow you got permission to register it as a parking lot?
Well, we don't
I'm
know.
not sure about the
According to
We're not sure, we
permission
don't
to
know.
use.
I'm under oath here, I'm not lying,
The picture would say something.
I also
And-
included the number of the application, the development application, to switch it to
Somehow the city didn't get the permit, or the assessment department, pardon me.
I'm not
That's,
necessarily sure. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess a permit would be required.
yeah, yeah, somehow it didn't go through. So now it is, now the assessor's aware of it, and it's gonna be reassessed based on,
We'll look at it and see if it warrants any changes or. for
yeah,
that
that's
matter,
right,
yes.
okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, that concludes our hearing. Thank you very
Thank
much
you, sir.
for appearing, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.